Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make improvements in your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon, presented by 17 Hats.
Hello and welcome to today's episode. All right, when I started doing balloons, the goal of getting a large job felt lofty and kind of impossible. Now, 10 years in, I've had that opportunity, and it's not easy. When you see these huge installs online, so much goes into the planning, the prep, the getting that job. Like, how do you even get a job on that scale? And then when you do, how do you pull it off? So that's what we're talking about today with our guest who needs no introduction, but I'm going to give it to her anyway. Tiffany from Confetti Castle is back again. And she is talking about large installations. We're covering everything from getting those jobs, covering those jobs with staff, troubleshooting, figuring out the logistics of getting into places like stadiums and hotels and just some of the hassles that come along with working on that scale. And she's talking about planning a large install for the TUFTEX Experience, which is coming back again in 2025. So I'm so excited to be attending. I watched from afar last year. I couldn't attend in person, and I had so much FOMO that I couldn't miss it this year. So I'm so excited to talk about all things large installations. And thank you to our friends at TUFTEX for sponsoring this month. They have curated and handpicked each of our guests. And if you're unfamiliar, TUFTEX Balloons is a family-owned and operated business and is the only manufacturer making latex balloons in the USA and Canada. TUFTEX is committed to providing premium quality products and building a stronger balloon community through educational initiatives to support the growth of balloon professionals. Be sure to look for TUFTEX Balloons at your favorite distributor. And they really are supporting us through education. That is what the TUFTEX Experience is all about. Learning, meeting people, networking, having fun, and watching people do what they do best. For example, Tiffany running a crew, doing a large install on a massive scale. So if you are headed to the TUFTEX Experience, you'll be able to see this install and hang in there, listen to this episode. If you are interested in participating and being on the crew for that large install, Tiffany is going to leave some details in this episode and linked in the show notes wherever you are listening. Real quick, I just wanted to mention our bonus episodes. The easiest way to support the podcast and support me is to sign up for bonus episodes. So for $5 a month, you get an extra episode every single week. And if that's something that you're interested in doing, it will be linked in the show notes. And I appreciate all of those supporters so much. All right, let's take a quick break and head over to the U-Glue hotline, and then get into yet another interview with Tiffany from Confetti Castle. Welcome to the U-Glue hotline, where we discuss great advice that sticks, brought to you by Pro Tapes. If you have a question or some great advice to share, click the link in the show notes to call in and leave a voicemail.
Hi, Sarah. My name is Libby from Libby's Party Design in the city of Azusa in California. I want to thank you for your podcast. It seriously has changed the way I do business because of all the interviews and all the tidbits that you give us. Thank you so much. I really enjoy listening to you weekly. My tidbit is for those people who rent out the marquees from vendors like myself. I rent out my marquees to vendors, and I just recently purchased a brand new set, and they were pretty expensive. And what I do so that they're not damaged, because I have received them damaged on the first time I rented them out, is instead of using any sort of tape on the marquees, I put 2 column stands on each side of the marquee. So, for example, if you're going to do 2024 or 2025, put a balloon column on the 2 and then another on the 5. And that way you could start building your balloon garland on the column and not have to glue it onto the marquise, and then just tie them to the marquise with 260s. I think that'll be much better for both parties, because that way our marquise are not damaged and you're not responsible to pay the damage fee. I hope that helps. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.
Pro Tapes is a leading manufacturer of specialty tape products like Pro Gaff, Pro Artist Tape, and our favorite balloon tape, U-Glue, which helps you create amazing balloon arrangements and decorations in less time. You can save 5% on U-Glue when you buy directly from Having a Party using code BRIGHT at checkout.
Welcome back once again, Tiffany. You're making a play to be one of the most most visited guests on the podcast. Today, though, we are talking about large installs, and then talking about the TUFTEX experience, which you were involved in last year, and you're very involved in, again, specifically doing large installations. And I think that's something a lot of us don't have a ton of experience, or when we do, it's like a one and done type of thing. But you are doing pretty significant large installations on the regular. Can't wait to hear about those. But really quick, in case someone has not heard of you before, let's tell them who you are and give yourself an introduction.
Okay, so I'm Tiffany and I own Confetti Castle in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have been in the business since 2019. So I started pre-COVID, but my business really took off during COVID. And I have a small team that just shrank. It's in the midst of shrinking right now. So we have some things that are going on right there. Nothing bad, just, time for certain people to move on. And so just making some adjustments in that way. And we have a warehouse space that's 7,000 square feet. We have multiple of our own vehicles that are paid for. We don't have any debt for our company. So we are in a good place in that. And that's really it. We do a lot of large installs for all of the big corporate companies here in Charlotte, as well as the professional sports teams. So that is that's not our focus, but it's definitely what we are working on regularly, on a basically weekly basis. So that's that.
Okay, so I have a few areas that I want to dive into.
Yes.
I think there's two different ways to think about large or big. The first is the size of a job. Let's say, a $10,000 job. That's pretty doable for you. And for a lot of us, that's maybe a once a year, maybe a once in a lifetime scale. So there's the bigness of a job, but then there's also the bigness of you have 25 jobs in a weekend, 30 jobs in a weekend. So that's a different kind of big, lots of little moving pieces. So I want to dive into each of those. And then the big question is, how do you get those? And I think some of it is maybe where you live, but some of it is probably networking, connections, and I'm curious about all those things. So let's start there. Let's talk about, how do you even get anything on this scale or get that busy? Because I think for a lot of people, it's pretty unimaginable to be functioning at that scale.
So as far as getting those jobs, I would say a lot of it is just long relationships, which, 5 or 6 years is, I'd say, a long relationship. But some of our larger jobs, I'd say the majority of them are people that we have done smaller jobs for first. I mean, it's not really people walking in the door and saying here, let me give you 15 grand, 20 grand or whatever. So I think that's part of it. And I think also one of the things that helps is a $10,000 job is what I would consider probably a larger job, but we do a lot of $5,000 jobs, on a very regular basis, weekly basis for sure. So I think that helps, just because even though it's not quite as big, it's pretty much because we have so many systems that we like to use and, formulas and things like that. I just think of everything as multiplying. To me, I don't think, oh, this is a $10,000 job. I think this is two $5,000 jobs. So it's not that serious.
Yeah.
I think that it's a lot of mindset in that way. And that's something that I like. It's literally I don't think of 200 feet of garland. I think, okay, we have to make 20, 10-foot garlands, if that makes sense.
No, that does.
So I like to look at it that way.
What type of things? Because I think, again, a lot of people are what could you even sell for $10,000. Like you're not really doing like insane custom sculptures. You're doing kind of a lot of the same stuff over and over. So what makes up like a $10,000 job?
It can be a mixture of, well, now we have marquee letters, which does help, but it's not like the bulk of it because unless you have a bazillion letters, but that could be an easy $1,000 right off the rip. And then,
Hmm.
um, then we can have bouquets. We do a ton of helium, so we can have a bunch of bouquets or a bunch of jumbo balloons. We do sell a lot of we call it a jumbo bouquet, but it's basically like a two 3 foots and a 2 foot or two 2 foots and a 3 foot balloon. We sell a lot of those. And I mean, if you're selling those at 175 a pop, it's like that adds up quick,
Yeah.
filling up a big space. We also have a lot of fringe in our inventory, and so that is something that we rent out and make money on a lot. Our rental items. So, and then arches. I mean, you throw up a couple arches and you're talking $1,000 a pop really quick.
Yeah.
Columns, crazy towers. I mean, so it could definitely is usually a mix. It's not usually like one huge display. It's usually like, oh, let's add some helium. Let's do this. For example, this weekend we have a Panthers install and it's for their just like their Christmas, whatever. I think it's like about 7,000, which is not 10, but we have 1 hour to do it. Okay,
Oh
so
my gosh.
yeah, yeah. So we have 1 hour because of the way that the players are and things like that. So that stuff is all just going to be drop off things, but literally it's going to be $7,000. So we're doing a handful of Christmas trees. These because it's Christmas time for us right now. So we're doing these. I don't know where I came up with it, but basically stacking some gingerbread helium, put like kind of attaching them to each other so it looks like they're being like floated away with some balloons. But I'm charging like 250 for each of those. And then a couple of arches, some crazy towers, but it's all stuff that we have to pop up. Literally, we have 1 hour. We do not have a minute more. That's it. We do not get a second longer just
And
because with the players being there.
you said you have two vans. So for something like this, are you getting U-Hauls?
We actually have two vans and one box truck. One of the vans we very, very seldom use. It's like old. It's not wrapped or anything. But this one we'll use the box truck and the van. But we're also really lucky. Even if I can't fit everything, we're really lucky because our office is literally 2.5 miles from the stadium.
Okay.
So if we went there and dropped off some stuff, so we could probably go drop off some stuff and leave it outside, like holding. Somebody could run back while we're taking stuff in and grab some more stuff if we need to, just because we're so close. But if it is something like that, we will rent something. But I'll know the day before, we'll load up stuff the night before. And I can also look at things and be like, I can kind of block it off what the box truck is like, how much stuff we can fit in that little space.
See, I'm the opposite. I look at something and I'm like, there's no way that's going to fit. And then it easily does. And then there's other times I'm like, it'll be fine. And it's like, wait, what was I thinking? Like half of this doesn't fit. So I'm always like last minute renting trucks, but I am bad at visually figuring out what fits. I need to just
I'm
write it down, honestly.
I'm pretty good about it. I mean, like I know what we can fit. Loose garland, like if we're not doing any organic for this. If we were doing organic, I could know right off the bat. I mean, like we can do like 160 feet in our box truck, not wrapped.
Okay.
So, 160, maybe a little bit more. In our van, we can do about 80 in our
Yeah.
van, unwrapped. So that's pretty easy, but it gets kind of tricky sometimes with the stuff that's over 6 foot because like a column, because you can't, the box truck, like the door would get caught on things.
Oh, sure.
Make sure we put things very strategically into the van because the van is higher and not everyone puts those thoughts all together. So sometimes I have to be really specific about like, let's make sure that these go in this vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. And how do you do your proposals for these huge things? I guess this is kind of two questions. One is like, what do you send them? And then the other thing is, what do you actually do to figure out the creative stuff on your end, right? Like you're coming up with, like you just said, these gingerbread things. Those have to be somewhere. Are they just in your brain or how are
My
you?
brain. I mean, things like that. Usually it's stuff we're just repeating a lot. Like say all the time, I am not the most talented balloon artist, but I am very creative when it comes to making money. So that's my strong suit. And I think that that's okay. It's okay to admit that like that's my thing. I would rather recreate things. And I know some people get boring or say it's boring or whatever, but I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. We do different stuff and the colors are different and things like that. But when it comes down to it, it's really the time you would spend to do something really wild and creative is they're not going to love it any more than the regular things you do all the time.
Yeah.
So they don't care, so why should I? But so when those kinds of things, we will send photos. We do not do any mock-ups. I mean, I think in almost 6 years, we've done maybe 3 mock-ups. No kidding. We will copy and paste like on the iPhone now, how you can copy and paste like a garland, put it somewhere on something if we really need to. But usually we'll just send them examples like this weekend for the trees. Or like, do they want flat pack trees or do they want the normal Christmas trees? And I'm like, the footprint is different. So if they have a smaller footprint, they want the flat pack trees. So we'll send things like that, like as a photo in an email. And then we'll say, okay, in our invoicing, it's an estimate in square. And we just send, a description, but all of our items are in there. So we're not like doing custom items and stuff. Everything is like the same price all the time. So we'll put things in there. And if they don't understand something, then we'll send them a picture. But most of the time, that's not a thing. They're like,
Yeah.
we'll put the item and I'll say, this is for hallway decor, or this is for centerpieces, or whatever.
I
Um,
find that the
or
the bigger the job, not always, but most of the time, like the less they care. I feel like sometimes people spend more time choosing money for like a 6 foot garland or choosing colors for a 6 foot
I know.
garland than, an administrative assistant or like an event planner. They're just like, I don't care. Like as long as you do it,
And it
it's
looks good
it's
and you have
fine.
proven that your stuff is good. I mean, they're going to give you a lot more freedom. That's the thing too, is I try to not be like needy from the beginning and have them make, if it's your first time with a client, I try not to give them too many decisions to make because then they're gonna micromanage me. So I'd rather be like, okay, this is what we think we should do, and that's it, and kind of not give them a reason to ask you a lot of questions because then I think you just end up just shooting yourself in the foot. And it for later jobs is when it's going to affect you. Right now, it might not when you're like, oh, let me show you these colors. No, we don't need to do that. You send us your colors, you send us the thing. We know what's available. Let us decide that. Some people are really picky about it, but it's so much less than what people think.
Yeah.
It's like you give people choices, they're going to him and ha. They're going to go, well, what do you think? And it's like, I don't think. I'm gonna decide is what I'm gonna say. So I think that that's a lot of times that people give them so many choices, but if you don't give them that many choices, I'm to promise you that it is not going to affect your business because you're gonna make the better choice anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. What other tips do you have for large installs? Like the planning, you make it sound so easy, like, oh, we're gonna get there, we're gonna unload, we have an hour to do it. But I know the logistics are it's a lot. And I don't think a lot of people have what you do, which is it's like you're thinking with 3 brains at the same time. You're like, okay, this is happening, that's happening, this happening. So for people who need maybe more of like a checklist or they've never done something on this scale before, like what are recommendations that you have to kind of help ease some of those growing pains?
I would say number one is really know this if it's corporate, especially the space and security. We have had more issues lately. We live in a very large banking city. Charlotte is the number 2 banking city in the country. I don't know if you know that or not, but right under New York, it's the number 2 in the country. So there is a lot of security everywhere. And we have like this one place that we sat in the lobby for 45 minutes and we told them, we were like, this is not, we couldn't do part of the install. They had already paid for it. And we're like, we cannot be late to our next job because of this. So then the next time that we did a job for them, we said, we are only dropping off. We are not installing anything. We will leave it because we can leave it at the front door. You can move it to wherever you want to. So you have to be very upfront about you have to consider when it comes to logistics, people just consider it's going to take me this long to put it together. How long is it going to take you to get it from your vehicle to the inside?
Mm-hmm.
How many elevators do you have to go through? How many doorways do you have to go through? Some doorways you need to have someone fob you in. Do you need to have someone on both sides of the door? That's where you really can get caught up very badly is if you do not have those logistic things. What's the parking like? There's one place that we go to and I charge normally all the pricing is the same, but there's a place that we go to and you can only park while you unload. You cannot stay parked there at all. So when we have that place, someone has to go there, they unload in the loading dock, and then that person leaves. They go back to the office. So you have to have enough people, and then usually whoever is there will just Uber back home or back to the office. So, things like that you won't know, but don't be afraid. Those are the kinds of questions. Now, I will say this. Don't be asking a million questions that are going to possibly make them go, this is going to be more trouble than it's worth, let's
Yeah.
say. So don't do that because you can end up, they're going to be like, oh, this is a lot. No, what you need to do is you book the job and then you will say to them like, okay, now we really need to figure out how we're going to do this logistically and things like that. Don't give them like too many possible problems right from the jump if you've never done something there before.
Yeah, I agree. I have done both. I usually don't over ask. Half the time it's like the night before and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know anything. I didn't ask what door to use. But I don't go to the city very often. Obviously, that's where it's much more of like a loading dock and parking situation. A lot of the places around here, it's like you pull up to the front door and load in. Um,
Yeah.
but I've also over accommodated. Like, yes, I can totally reach that 30-foot beam with my Magpul. I can totally, and it's like, it's okay to be like, is there a lift? Like, we need a lift. If you want this thing, am I going to be able to go on it? Is it union people? Like, what's the
Yeah.
situation? I've been at a place where you had to pay for them to turn on the outlets. Like the electricity wasn't just like free for all. So I had no power. So I was like using a hand pump to
I
inflate all the
remember.
3-foot toppers. And I was just like, I'm going to die. So I think some of those things you can be confident in asking for what you need. But yeah, again, like sometimes the person you're working with isn't even the person to ask. I like to ask who their on-site coordinator is and then give that person all the problems.
That's
Um,
an that's another thing too that I think people really make a mistake, and we've been there before, is when you are going to a venue, is I insist that we have an email where it's like you, the client, and that person. And you say, hey, our plan is to be there this time. This is when breakdown, because then if there's any miscommunication, then we know. Then also, do not be afraid that when the client says the venue says you can't be there till 10 o'clock. I'm going to tell you, especially if it's a restaurant, even though this isn't a huge job, but this is still something that people need to know. They're like, you can't be there till 10 o'clock. If you have that person's contact from the place, obviously you don't want to be annoying, but you can absolutely say to them, hey, I know that they are not supposed to be there till 10, but will you let a vendor in? And I'd say 90% of the time they'll say, oh yeah, well, somebody will be here at 9 o'clock. They just don't want someone there bothering them or whatever when they're doing stuff, but they know I'm just there to do my job and I'm getting out.
yeah. Yeah. Or sometimes
So
it's just like an arbitrary number. They're like, oh, can you come at 2? And you're like, yeah. And then as it gets closer, you're like, 2 o'clock is like a huge problem. I wish I could get in at 1. And if you just touch base with the actual place, they're like, we don't care. They have the rooms open all day. Come whenever. Like there's been a lot of times where I'm like, I'm just too afraid to ask for what I need. And it's like literally no problem at all.
definitely ask the people that are in charge of the place. Like the client, they're going to tell them, yeah, you can't be there till 11 o'clock. And that's all, that's there's your only choice. But that's just because they don't want them there at the crack of dawn.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Let's take a break. And then I want to talk about the other type of big, which is managing a lot of people and a lot of jobs, because that's where I get very overwhelmed thinking about multiple things going on at the same time. So we'll be right back.
Are you ready to take your balloon business to the next level? Look no further than Having a Party Wholesale, your ultimate destination for all things balloons. Having a Party Wholesale is on the cutting edge of new products that will wow your clients, from top brands like TUFTEX, Jamar, Anagram, Ellie's, Sempertex, Premium Conwin, and introducing Brookloon, a new balloon line created by the Having a Party family. They've got the widest selection to fuel your creativity. Join the successful league of professional balloon artists who shop at havingaparty.com.
All right, welcome back. The other thing that you do really well is have a very busy schedule, and you stack your jobs pretty tightly, and you have a very lean team. So how do you do that? Like how do you, let's start at the beginning. How do you figure out the scheduling, like the very basic. You book the jobs and then like who goes where?
Well, I try to put number one, people like with their strongest suit. Like I don't want to send, I'll usually send my husband on a bunch of breakdowns or on deliveries and things. He's definitely capable of installs, but he just is very quick and fast at like a breakdown. Like you will blink your eyes and it will be done. It might not be done the way I would do it, but I'd have to let that go. So that's also a big thing too, is like letting go, knowing that you're not going to be at every single thing. I mean, it's just not possible. I do the least jobs of anyone, which will be changing. But I do the least. And when it comes to actual installs, and so you just have to, it's training is like the biggest thing. I mean, you have to make sure the people you're sending are really comfortable in what they're doing and very well trained to figure out to problem solve because they're not going to be FaceTiming me because I'm another job or doing
Yeah.
something else to be like, how do I fix this? Like you want to empower people to be able to fix it themselves. And then it's really just like, you know, we have friends, you and I have friends that have employees and they have the same schedule like Monday through Friday. That does not work for us. They're like, 8 to 5. I'm like, well, what if you have a late install? Well, then we pay them extra to do it later or whatever. I'm like, just schedule based on your needs. And so that's what we do. We don't, somebody like, for example, today, some people can went in at 9 o'clock, some people went in at 10 o'clock. I worked from home all day. So it's staggering things. So that way those kinds of things are done, or having someone not work at all during the day and then just do breakdowns at night. Those kinds of things. And then there's jobs where you just need one person, and there's jobs where you need more than one person. And then sometimes if we have a bunch back to back to back, you'd send like 3 people and they are literally going from one to the next to the next. And they just get it done so fast. So it's kind of, it's hard to like really pinpoint, but for the most part, it's just you really have to be very realistic about your timeline and how, that something should only take 30 minutes, but you need to give yourself 50. It's,
Yeah.
that much is a basic. Also, using Google Maps to map things out. And I use there's an app that I use, or not an app, a website that I use. It's called Route XL. And basically, you can plug in a bunch of addresses and it will tell you the best route to go, like what's the most efficient. And that is really good to use if you have a bunch of deliveries. But also, when you're doing the logistics, if you're checking how long it's going to take to get somewhere at when you're working on stuff at 10 p.m., that is not accurate.
Yeah, right.
at,
Especially in a
at
city.
9 a.m. the next day. So you can, and some people don't know this, is that, you can go into Google and you can say, this is the date, this is the time I'm going to travel. How long is it going to take
Oh, I
me?
didn't know that.
In
That's a
Google,
really good hack.
you go to Google Maps and it says like, are you going there now? No. You can put in the date, the time, or the day of the week, whatever. There's all different options. And then it'll tell you like, okay, on average, it's school year, it's this and that. It will definitely adjust the time.
That's
So
really
don't
cool.
just go based on it. Right now there's nobody in the streets.
Yeah. And then you go
That
rush hour and you're
yes.
screwed. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'll do like street view and I'll actually like kind of walk the streets and be like, okay, there is like the entrance to the garage they're talking about. Or like actually
Mhm.
tomorrow I'm going to one and I don't see the garage they're talking about. They're like, "Oh, the garage here,
Yeah.
on these corners." And I'm already anticipating a little extra time being like, I
Mhm.
don't know what they're talking about. I don't see a garage. My van can't fit in that underground parking thing. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. So
Also,
I'm
and
giving myself
also,
time.
we've asked people to send us a photo of the entrance
Hmm.
because, in certain places we haven't gone to, I'm not going to go do a drive-by everywhere. I don't have time to do that. But like, which entrance are you talking about? And they'll call it something, and you're like, I have no idea what that means.
Right, right.
Panther Stadium, even like, there's entrances. I'm like, which one is that? So we have like photos of everything that's like, this is the entrance they're talking about because they call it something different than what we would call it. So I think that that's totally also okay. Hey, 2 days before, hey, can you send us a picture? Can you send me a picture of like the doors that I need to go in or where I should be parking? Because it does help a lot on that day.
Yeah. And how much, I guess, ownership do you give your team? Because, like you said, you're somewhere else. You're probably not going to answer your phone. And if they're like, I don't know where this entrance is, I don't know where the person is, no one's here to unlock the door. Like, Do they have the full invoice? Do they have the contact person? Are you worried about sharing any of that with your team? Like, what
They
do they
don't have
have?
they don't have the invoice. I mean, like, I guess Heather would have the invoice if she wanted to go look it up, but we keep everything in the Google Calendar. That's like the contact info. And I go through, I mean, mostly as soon as the order comes in or we take the order, however it's working, whether it's coming on the website, whatever, we have the contact, everything like that. But I'm always like, is it their cell phone number? Um, is that going to be the person that's there that morning? Because sometimes it's not. So it's always checking in like before, but they have the contact for everything. And it's for sure. And also you got to make sure, like, do they all have their IDs with them? Because they're a
Mm,
building people go to, and it's like you have to give them your ID to get inside. So you need to know those things, especially when it's those corporate kind of jobs, because we've gone places. I have everyone have a picture of theirs on their phone just in case, just for emergency purposes. You didn't
yeah.
whatever, just so they have it. That's important, but always kind of knowing or finding out like what is that process like, but they have all the contact information. Everybody does.
That's a really good idea. Have has it ever gone wrong? Like I'm sure you have nightmare stories. Has there
Well,
ever been
just
a
like
time?
that one the other day I told you where they sat outside, and I was like, finally I called them and I was like, I have everyone's location. Well, let me clarify. I have everyone's location for different reasons, but I have the location of the keys no matter what,
Okay.
of the vehicle. So even if you're not comfortable to ask your employees for their location, I have mine, not because it's been for other reasons, whatever,
So what is
but
that? Like an air tag on your
yes,
keys or how do you do that? Oh, that's a good
absolutely.
idea.
No, instead of checking in with them, I don't want them texting and driving. I really don't want them on the phone when they're driving at all. So it's like, okay, where is the truck at? Okay, I can look and see, are they on the way to the next job? And that's when I will call. And I don't text. I will call. I will call the phone and I will say, you guys should be gone right now. Because if I text, then I have to wait for them to text me back. Wait, it's too much. I also don't want them, if they pick up the phone, then, somebody sees them on the phone, they know. I'll be like, okay, why haven't you guys left yet? And so that happened. This is when this just happened the other day. I called and I said, okay, you're going to drop off the stuff that's there just for delivery. And you're telling them we're not doing the install. I said, if you want me to call them right now, I will. But we couldn't get a hold of the girl anyways. That was the problem. And I said, that's it. We're not doing anything else. We cannot, because it's going to cause us to be late. And if they say to you, you only have this much time to install, don't be afraid to say like, that is not going to work. We have to change the plan. We have to do something different. Um, you know, you're not going to pull off miracles. So you got
So
to be real.
what did they do? They left helium bouquets and then a bunch of garland and they were like, good luck.
Left columns and they did an arch, but they didn't put any of the add-ons on. And then they left. That was it.
Hmm.
Went back and broke it down later on that day. And that's it.
Any
And
any
they booked it. We had
complaints
another job
or
with them. We had another job with them. That job was like maybe a $5,000 job. And then we had a $2,500 job with them. They booked the day after that one that was a failure.
huh?
They booked it after that and that was it. I mean, they knew it was their problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm kind of nervous about my one tomorrow morning because it's in like a penthouse suite at a hotel, which already makes it like, okay, got to go in the loading
Uh-huh.
dock. They have to unlock the door. And I'm nervous because the event is for tomorrow night. So of course I'm making up my own scenarios of like, well, is anyone staying there? Because they're not going to be checked out by 9. Like like you just have to trust that what they said is what is going to happen. So if it doesn't, then it's like, well, I have it in writing that that's when I'm supposed to be there. So I'm already envisioning like leaving
Oh,
20 feet of garland outside a hotel room, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, let's take another break. And then I want to talk about TUFTEX Experience. We'll talk about last year versus this year. And then you are planning large decor with a
yeah.
team of not your people. So that's a whole
Yeah.
other situation. So we will talk about that when we get back.
If you're looking to grow your balloon business through sales and marketing, Balloon Suite is the high-tech toolkit designed just for you. Let's chat with Jeff Kelly, owner of Balloon Suite, to answer one of your sales and marketing questions.
All right, Jeff, today, corporate question. Heart Leo Balloon says, any tips on marketing to corporate clients, specifically cold marketing?
Cold marketing to people working at large businesses is both easy and hard. It's easy because people in leadership roles in businesses are typically pretty easy to find. You can find them on LinkedIn. You can search for the specific business. You can search for specific job titles. And so you can identify people to contact relatively easy. You may even be able to call the main company number and just ask for Jeff Kelly and get transferred directly to Jeff Kelly's line. So in some aspects, it's very, very easy. And in some aspects, it's very, very hard because you're not the only one who's contacting them for things. They have a full day. They have a lot of responsibility. And so they might not want to give you the time of day. I recommend you do a combination of ongoing outreach to people who you don't know and trying to get yourself into environments where you can meet these people in person. So if there's a particular type of role, if there's like if you're going after people who have an event planner title at large businesses, those event planners in general are going to go to some sort of industry events, or they're going to some sort of website for training and information, or they're going to some other types of vendors for what they need. You could collaborate with those other vendors. You could get a booth at the events they're going to or the conferences. You could try to find ways to meet with them in person. And that then becomes the best way to do cold outreach, is the combination of what's really cold, but then also figuring out how to get in front of your target.
Very nice. Balloon Suite helps boost your sales, solve everyday problems, and keeps you on track to reach your goals. Check out the link to Balloon Suite in the show notes wherever you're listening, or head right to balloonsuite.com.
All right. Welcome back. TUFTEX Experience 2025. I'm excited. I missed it last year. I am attending this year. Can't wait to do some podcasting and also just to be there. It looked so fun and so social. And the decor was amazing. So before we launch into all the nuts and bolts, why don't you just tell us about it? Because you're a big fan of TUFTEX. You love not only the balloons, but the company. And you were super involved last year. What are you excited for this year?
Last year, I did a lot of help with planning and stuff, which is really kind of looking that way too again this year, which I love to do. And so that's a great thing that I'm fortunate to be able to be like a part of and stuff like that. And people ask me all the time, how'd you get in this relationship and stuff? Well, number one, I was an actual like super user of their product. That was the biggest thing. So it's not like I just, randomly went all over and did stuff. It's like, I've really been working with TUFTEX since I started. They would tell you like from Lorax, they didn't use, that's my main distributor that I order from, and they did not use TUFTEX or did not sell it. And I basically was like, please sell it. I promise I will get people to buy it. And they did, they started selling it. So that worked out in my favor. And so last year I did opening night decor and I taught 2 classes 2 times each. We did a ton every night. There was a social event. It's definitely, I've been to a lot of these things now and it's a different vibe than any of the others. Not like anything's the best. I'm of course going to be partial, but, it's just different. And I think a lot of that is because Allison and TUFTEX, they really do focus a lot on people, the business and the technique, and also the camaraderie and having, making sure that you are talking to other balloon artists and things like that, and you're learning from different people. So that's very important to them. So that's kind of the things that make it different.
And I should say, I'm going to interrupt too because tickets are still available. So if anyone's listening,
there are a handful of tickets. I just asked today, which I'm surprised. I think that they ended up releasing some more that they had at first. So I know that there's probably by the time this airs, there probably literally will be only a handful.
Yeah, and Allison did mention they could increase if the demand is there, but she wants to keep it small. So I think if you're listening, and you're like, I don't have a ticket. At least go to their website and check it out. It's not like there's no opportunities here.
Yeah, so this year is going to be different. So last time was in Cleveland, and this time, and we haven't announced all of the different events that will be happening, but just as an example for last time, if you're wondering, like one night was in the hotel. That's when I did opening night decor for the whole thing. And then another night was they rented out the entire Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like just for us. Another time they rented out this huge like ferry boat situation. I don't even know how to explain that. It was crazy. So everything is it's not just like, oh, we're going to go and have pizza. That's not how they roll. Everything has a theme, it's very much involved and fun, lots of fun. And they don't want people working late. Like nobody works late. No one's staying up all night blowing up balloons. If it comes down to it, Allison's like, we're doing too much.
Yeah.
She does not want that ever. She doesn't want anyone, she wants everyone to be able to work and have fun, which I love. So those kinds of things. This year it's going to be in Columbus, which is also, not too far from them, which is good. And there is stuff every night again. I am going to be doing the opening night decor again this time. I am doing a theme that I really wanted the last time, and we didn't do it, but we kept it on the list. And so this time when it came up, and Allison said, "Okay, remember what you want to do?" I said, "Yes." And she's like, "Okay, we got it." I was like, "Yes." So super excited about that. And, I am going to be working with a bunch of people that I don't like work with on a daily basis. As of right now, I am taking one employee. And because my husband will be gone to Italy already, and I'm not sure yet. I have room that I can take another one if I want to, but I just don't know if I'm going to or not. So I will have some people that are there that will work, that will help with my design, that I know, that are other instructors and just other people that are like color crew people, like tough tech support. And then I will probably take a few more
And
people.
how do people get the opportunity to work with you on that?
So we were just talking about it before we were on here, is that I think that I'm gonna really start getting into it in the next couple of weeks to decide like all of the elements that we'll have, because like we said, this part, the opening night is going to be in the hotel, so that is an advantage.
Right.
So it's gonna have to be, I'm already have some people that I know for sure are going to be helping me, that have helped me before, that I've worked with, that are like local-ish to me, or I've gone somewhere to help them, in some way, shape, or form. So I will probably put something up, or not probably put something up. Maybe when in the notes of this, I can send you a link, and I probably will only have like maybe like 4 or 5 more people,
Yeah.
but attendees that are interested, that want to help, but it's like a commitment. Like if you say you're going to help me, then I'm like getting you a badge that you're going to help me.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
I guess that's kind of the last component here. How is that different, and how is that for you as kind of the leader and the designer? Because for your team, it's like they know mostly how you want things done going into a job. Working with a
mhm.
group of people that not only maybe don't know how to do something, or like, I almost think it's worse when they do it different. Like sometimes that's
Yeah.
great, but like, when are you okay with that? And when are you like, no, this is how it has to be?
Well, I'm pretty okay with like people doing stuff differently, and for the most part, but like last time I just felt like, 'cause it was a huge ballroom, I feel like I literally just walked in circles the whole time. I
Yeah.
just kept around and like, okay, yeah, this is great. We're doing good. We're doing good. So you're more like a project manager than actually like doing a lot of stuff, because you've done most of the work before. And you want to use it as like a teaching tool. It's like it is another teaching opportunity for me to be able to have other people help and be a part of it. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. And I want to be able to show people how to do things, but there's certain things that like the things that I'm like, one needs to be done this way. It will be people that I have worked with before.
What type
Um,
of things can you think of, anything off the top of your head? Like I always think of like Dante. He is very specific about how you tie balloons, and very specific about how you tie them on the line. And so like I don't do any of the things like that, so I have to do it his way if I'm working with him. But like, can you think of anything that you're like, no, this is the way you have to do it for me?
Well, because of how we do our formulas and counter numbers, that how we tie our balloons a really specific way. If I have someone helping that has not done it before, I will absolutely put them with people that have.
Okay.
So I will have someone else teach them how to do that specific thing, which we did last year. We had 2 people that didn't do it our way. They learned how to do it when they were helping with that first day, and now they do it our way.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that that's, they're just enough. I have enough people that help, that have worked with me enough, that know that like this is how we do it. So I would really probably the only thing I would honestly say is probably our garland. And that's only because it's not like it's the only right way. It's like I have counted on X amount of feet. So I need them to be blown up and put together that way, so I have the right amount at the end.
Right. Or if you just let someone kind of go for it and they tie
then I can
8,000
put it together.
balloons that you're like, okay, well, these aren't going to link the way that I twist them. So, like,
Yeah.
this is all waste. Like, I've had that happen before. Actually, I've been that person. I remember at Float, one of my first years, they were like, we need these 5-inch, really, really small, like, really little. So, like, I don't know. I was sitting there and I was blowing up balloons for like an hour and no one checked on me. And I was blowing them up to like, I don't know, the size of like a peach. Like, that's to me, that's a really small 5-inch balloon. And they wanted them the size of like grapes. And I was like, so there's just a bag of green balloons. I remember I was like, sorry. And they just like didn't
Yeah.
use them. But like, you know, at the time I was embarrassed, but now looking back, I'm like, that probably wasn't on me. Like, I think you just don't know. And I think a lot of times doing something on that scale, it is the person's first time. Like the first time I did a huge job, I didn't really know how to manage people or delegate. Like you kind of have to wing it, and you might
Yeah.
only get a couple opportunities to do that.
Well, it's funny, not funny, but it is kind of, it's interesting though, because I've done so many of these things and the amount of balloons I ask for, people are like, that's really all you need. Because people will literally order like boxes and I'll be like, I need this and this and this. And I'm like, no, because I know exactly how many I need, even with a little bit of mess up for things like this. But I will end up with no balloons. Like
Yeah.
I will use all the balloons I have, but there are people, and it's not any like a day, it's just I know for sure. So I have to have it accurate.
Yeah.
I just don't want to over order. I know what they have to do. They have to take all that stuff back. They have to, I know the back end of it. So I'm like, I'm not going to over order cases and cases of balloons when I don't need to.
Yeah, I think that's such a strong quality too, just from your day-to-day balloons. I've
Yeah.
dialed in my formula a lot this past year, and we do ours different, but I have gotten to the point where I'm really proud. I had someone inflate my balloons this week, and then I went out there and I put everything together, and I think it was like 7 garlands, 2 columns, and an arch, all organic. And I did not have a single leftover cluster. I was like, okay, that's a good sign. Otherwise, if you're like, oh, just inflate like, a handful extra. It's like if you do that on every job, you're burning through like hundreds of dollars of product that you're just like you're not going to
Really.
need and that they didn't pay for.
No, and it's like, and also just the time somebody spent doing it. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the point? No, everything is like to the number. It's like, we are not like, if we do an arch, if it has puddling, it's one number. If it has no puddling, it's less balloons. There is not an in between. It's not like, oh, just, we don't bring extra balloons unless it's classic decor. We'll bring some extra balloons, but we don't bring extra balloons with us. So, I mean, like, what we got is what we got.
Yeah, I don't even bring in
I
those
feel
extra
that's different.
clusters. Like, even if there's like a few extra helium balloons, I've learned not to bring those in. Otherwise, people see them, they're like, oh, can you just like tie those there? And I'm like, these 2 balloons? Like, that's gonna look dumb. But like, they don't know. They're just like, oh, put those on the bar. I'm like, this looks stupid. Like, or you bring in like 1 extra cluster and they're like, oh, can you just like tie that to the mailbox? You're just like, no, I want to leave. I don't want to do like
I know.
impromptu decor with
I
my
know,
leftovers.
I
So
know.
I hide that stuff in the van if there is any backup.
No.
Well, you can't share the theme yet.
I mean, I can tell you that she didn't say that I couldn't. It is going to be some sort of pajama party. I'll tell you
Oh,
that.
fun. Oh, that'll be really cool.
Some
All
sort
right.
of pajama party. I'll give you the other detail later, but some sort of a pajama party the first night.
Very
So
cool. All right. Well, I can't wait.
maybe by the time this comes out, we'll be able to share the rest, but I will tell you that much. Pajama party.
I love it. I'm excited. I'm so excited to be there. Let's take our final break and then do our final questions, which you may have answered in the last episode, or you may never have answered these before. I'm not sure. So we'll get into it. Before we wrap up this week's episode, I wanted to let you know that the 2025 Bright Balloon Business Planner is now available on Amazon. I created this planner a few years back when I was looking to purchase a planner to set my business goals, and everything I found was way too overwhelming. It included everything from a monthly schedule to your kids' soccer practice schedule to your grocery list. It was way too much. So I created something very simple and straightforward, simply for your business, for setting realistic goals and tracking your important numbers. So if that is something that will help you in your business, like it's helped me, it's available now. You can search on Amazon for the Bright Balloon Business Planner or click the link in the show notes wherever you're listening. I hope it helps. All right, welcome back. you have already answered these questions, your vacation spot, your things that you like. So you just answered these not too long ago on our mastermind episode with our group.
Yes.
So I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to ask you some never before asked questions
Ah.
regarding TUFTEX Experience. So the first question, who as a student, you as the student attending their class, are you most excited to learn from? Who's an instructor?
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna go look at my cheat sheet again of everyone who's teaching because because there's so many. Well, one thing I will say too that I don't know if this has been mentioned before. So like every teacher that's teaching, I think everyone except for me and one other is teaching 2 classes 2 times. So there's lots of opportunities to see people to teach. Oh my gosh, it's really hard because I like everybody. So it's hard to say. I think one that I have never seen teach that I would love to see teach, because a lot of these people I've seen teach before multiple times. Um, Dream Hire Events. I've followed her for a long time. I think that she's super talented. I like the way that she teaches just like in her videos, I guess I would say. And so she's somebody that I'm very curious to see teach. I'm excited about that. Probably somebody who I've seen teach that I'm really, I mean, there's more than that, but that's like the first one that comes to mind. I love Jenny from Three Sparrows. I like the way she teaches. I like the way she answers questions, and she's just
Her
very
humor.
smart, but also gonna be her humor is top notch.
Yeah.
So, but we also have some people that are new, like, Nadia from Naughty Candy Events, where she's good, really, really good friend of mine. And she just taught at Globocon and I was not there, but I mean, they had literally had to lock the doors. They wouldn't let people in. Allison, they had so many people in the room, they wouldn't even let, Allison was her sponsor. They would not let her come in and watch
Oh
because there
my
were too.
gosh. Yeah, I'm excited by the
Oh,
lineup. I can't wait.
yeah, I'm
Um,
excited.
okay, this one's a little bit different, but you go to so many of these events,
Yeah.
all sorts of conferences, and I think
Mhm.
this might be a lot of people's first event. So, what is a recommendation? It could be simple, it could be, top secret tip. What's something that people should either bring or do, or how do they take care of themselves so that they have the best time at a conference like this?
Drink a lot of water. There'll be water everywhere. Drink a lot of water. Bring a water bottle. Um, do not get drunk the first night. Okay, listen, let me just tell you, don't. Because you do not want to feel like garbage from the jump. Everyone's made that mistake before. And one of the biggest things is like you're gonna go there, and I'm sure you probably have a friend that's there. 2 things. If you have a friend that's there, great. Hang out with that friend some, but make sure you talk to other people. Sarah and I can both, I know you and I both can attest to the fact that we have been at events before. We knew each other, but then we hung out at said event, and we have mutual friends that we have been at the same places, but we've hung out with other people. And then we're like, I have been missing out on like, hey, so don't spread yourselves crazy thin and hanging out with 10,000 different people, but don't just stick to your clique.
Yes.
This is a time, if it's people that you talk to all the time, then you're going to talk to them anyways. So this is the time to like meet new people, get new ideas, make new connections. I think that's like one of the biggest things. I think you're just doing yourself a disservice if you're only hanging out with the people you talk to all the time. Just that's not the move. And if you're coming or you're considering coming and you know nobody, you have no balloon friends, I can promise that you will leave this place and you will have more friends than you know what to do with. And so be open to it. Don't be afraid to go because you don't know anyone. Be afraid not to go because you will be missing out. And I hate to be like that, but you will be missing out because it is so much fun and the learning is so great. And you literally it's like 5-star treatment from the TUFTEX team. One of the reasons Allison would not brag on herself, I'm sure, but one of the reasons that she doesn't ever want it to be like a huge event is because she is committed to talking to every single person that attends, no matter what. And I tell her she's crazy. And she's like, I want to be able to say hello to everybody if they want to come and talk to me. So don't be afraid to go and talk to her. That's what she wants. So she never wants it to be a huge thing because she likes that everyone can talk to each other. So those are probably like my biggest things.
Yeah, I think also one of my kind of pushy tactics is don't be afraid to start a group chat. Like I'm in a bunch of group chats and like my core, like five of my best friends that are balloon people, I started this nerdy group because we all use 17 hats. Like we all use the same CRM and it was like, hey, you guys know like the workarounds and the pain points and how do we do this and how do we do and like it started purely like technical and business, but then it turned into like actual friendships. Or there have been other group chats I'm in. It's like, oh, it's like our roommates and two other people, and all of a sudden there's five people in a group and you turn into like great friends. And now you're asking all sorts of questions. So I think like don't leave not getting a number. Don't leave not connecting with anybody and just like thinking, oh, I'll follow them on Instagram. I think like some of those friendships turn into like true friendships, like people that are my actual friends, not just my balloon friends.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, or you get these people to convince you to do a Marco Polo and you don't know what you're doing or what you're supposed to be doing or how to work it, and then all of a sudden you're sending things you should never be sending to people.
You're welcome.
There's that part too. So yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's funny because we have different group chats. You and I are in different group chats together, and it's like some are 100% business and some are like, I don't know the last time we talked about something about work.
Or
So
like
I
even
think,
you, like you go to Disney all the time with balloon people. It's like you
yeah.
found that kind of common
Yeah.
connection.
Well, like we said, like Jordan and I, from Shop Hipper H, we literally like we talk about work so little, it's actually comical. For two people that see each other as much, we do talk about work sometimes, but we just talk about so many other things. So, but we definitely understand where each other is coming from. So those are like the best friendships to me, is like
Yeah.
the people who get where you're coming from. You don't have to talk about work all the time, but it's like they understand what you're going through, like when it's a busy time of year, when you have more time to be a good friend, when you don't, and those kinds of things. I mean, that's also part of the connection.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, final question because you love shopping. I like vicariously shopping. Um Usually I ask what's your favorite thing that you've recently purchased, but why don't we switch it up and keep it conference focused? You said a water bottle, but what's
Water bottle
one other thing that
with
someone,
your stuff on it,
what do you mean?
like your or whatever, like your name, your business, whatever. You
Oh
got to have a
yeah,
name.
that's a
Yeah.
good tip too. Besides that, what is one other thing that people should bring? Because again, we
A
go to these
sweatshirt.
conferences all the time. Oh, a sweatshirt.
A sweatshirt, even though it's going to be July and it's hot, bring a sweatshirt, bring layers of clothes, bring a pair of sweatpants if you wear the same ones every day. You have no idea how cold I don't know because I haven't been to this hotel yet. I think I will go in February. And even still, when there's people in there, you don't know if it's going to be hot or cold. So bring, like, you think, oh, it's the summer. They could have the air
They
conditioning,
crank it.
and they also there could be something wrong with the air conditioner. So that is one thing, is being dressed. I cannot focus. My ADD is so bad. If my temperature is off, if I'm too hot, I'm irritated and uncomfortable. If I'm too cold, I'm only thinking about being cold and I'm not focused. So have like layers of clothes.
Perfect. Very
I
practical.
mean, you know me, I am the serial packer of things. I have got, if you need something, I've got a hat, I have something for every occasion, but having like layers of clothes for sure do that.
That's a really good tip.
Another thing too that's different about this one that I should have mentioned before is that when you go to these, if you've gone to stuff before, don't miss the first night, because people did last time, they did not know that like the first night they thought, oh, it's just like registration. Like, no, it's going to be an actual event, an actual party. We're doing like real things, lots of things where you can make new friends before you even step foot in a class. So I will say that, because people last time they were like, oh, we just thought we were like registering. We're like, no, there's like a full-on event happening. So don't miss out on that. But another thing is that this is the only conference that you can sign up for your classes prior to on an app, in which that'll come out, before you get all the info before.
Well, amazing. If someone is interested, first of all, in finding out about you, where should they go?
My website, if you want to know anything about like the business part, my website, www.theconfetticastle.com. My Instagram's Confetti Castle. That's it.
Okay. And then how about this event? We will make it really easy and we're just going to link to it right in the show notes wherever you're listening. So we will link to ticket registration and the website. The lineup of teachers in real time was just announced. We're recording this at the end of December. So we know who the teachers are. I'm assuming more info is going to be coming out about what they're teaching. But I don't even care. I will I will be happy no matter what. And I think that's true. Like there are certain instructors. Chris Potts is a favorite of mine.
I love
Literally,
him.
he could be teaching how to like tie knots, and I'd be like, I'm there, front row, center. I'm there for Chris.
I love it. I get it.
So yeah, I can't wait to connect with you and everyone at TUFTEX. And I'm really excited that I get to be there doing some podcasting. More about that in the future. We'll figure out what that's going to look like.
Yep.
But yeah, I hope everyone listening comes and hangs out with both of us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for the time, for coming back on
having me. I appreciate you.
anytime. And we will see you in July.
Thanks for listening. As usual, I tried to keep it bright and light. Our presenting sponsor is 17 Hats, the CRM I use to cut the chaos and manage my entire balloon business. From the lead capture form on my website to workflows and email templates, invoicing and grab-and-go garland automated bookings, it's all powered by 17 Hats, the best customer relationship management system for balloon businesses. There's even a 50% off coupon code waiting for you in the show notes wherever you're listening. I'll see you next week in another episode.